Thank you very much for an excellent introduction, and I'm so proud and privileged to moderate this stellar galaxy of thought leaders in the water stroke environment space. It's a great honor, and it's amazing to see this this Jal Sevak Samman Awards grow from strength to strength. I believe it's more than 100% bigger this time. Next time it'll be 200 or 300% bigger. But anyway, uh, to come back to this August panel discussion, you've already heard the introductions, and we're going to, just a little rule book thing to make the best of our limited time. There's going to be 2 rounds of discussions, so I will ask domain specific questions to each of the panelists for about approximately 4 minutes each. And once it ends with Mr. Pankaj Poddar, we'll go back. Okay, roughly that. And yes, you can you can answer in any language that you like, but this is an international audience. Finally it's on YouTube. It'll go to, I think, about 115 countries, if not more, right? So we'll start off. And who better, I can really think of no better person to kick off the proceedings than Dr. Kapil Narula for a broad overview of, he's the Executive Director and CEO of CII Triveni Institute, as introduced. So I'm going to request him, there are about 4 or 5 questions each, so I'll kind of pack it in. Okay, so Dr. Narula, if you can set the broad context of this discussion, which is, how is climate change linked to access to water and sanitation, especially from a industry point of view, since you're part of CII and Electrosteel and CII has a long relationship. But anyway, if you can, just lay out the broad guardrails, the contours of this discussion. Thank you.
It's really wonderful to be here amongst all of you. And coming to this question that you're asking is about climate change and basically how this entire climate change is impacting water supply, sanitation from industry point of view. So climate change, as we all know, climate change is we are talking about a relationship of a hydrological system which governs the movement and distribution of water in any boundary. We are talking of this hydrological system which is an integral part of a climate system. Now, when we look at all the variables of climate system, be it temperature, be it pressure, be it wind speed, be it rainfall, all this, as you all know, forms a part of the hydrological system as well. Now, hydrological system and climate systems are in a perfect equilibrium. Greenhouse gases are not bad when you are in a perfect equilibrium. Problem comes when we alter this equilibrium, which is between the water, which governs the distribution of water, by heat, changes in heat. See, ultimately everything is driven by heat systems generated by sun. Now, when this equilibrium gets altered, basically we have heat generation that is because of anthropogenic reasons, be it industry, be it any other thing, changes in land use. This heat generation systems and heat distribution systems, they get altered. And this in turn alters the hydrology of the area, which governs the movement of water. Now, storms are also natural, and they have been there, every time. The problem is intensification of storms, floods, droughts, frequency, magnitude. This is all changing because of this heat, which is getting changed, the heat is getting changed. Now, industry, when this distribution of water changes, as you mentioned, Shubhoji, industry has to play a very important role. Why? Because availability of water and distribution of water is changing because of changing heat conditions caused due to anthropogenic reasons. The competition for this limited resource of water increases. Now, industry cannot be seen at any point of time competing with community. That's the most difficult part of industry to deal with. Neither you will get government to support you, nor you will get community to support you when this competition becomes intense. Therefore, industry needs to be a lot more prepared, Shubhoji, to deal with this, and you can do a major, very important role. In CII Water Institute, we actually work with industry to deal with industry in context of its watershed. Every industry should understand its natural boundary as well as its as you say, the administrative boundary, and we can understand availability and distribution of water and start conserving water both within the processes as well as with communities together. So that's what is required.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a wonderful, laying out the context. Next is actually, I would rather introduce the next speaker, Dr. Rajesh Kumar, IPS, as the son of a freedom fighter. Very few people know this about you, but your father raised his voice against the British at the age of 14. Okay, so that's very inspiring, sir. So, to come back to this discussion, sir, it's said that the next world war will be fought over water disputes, and we've already got some indications, okay, in various geographies. What is your point on this, especially from a government, since you also represent the government? What is the broad point of view on this? And if you can also, given your vast, deep experience in various water projects across the country, if you can also touch upon those, from your experience. And before you start, sir, congratulations on I think your team built an app recently, the Podibesh app. I was reading about it. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Okay, I hope you have downloaded it.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
And that I will request to everybody to please download our Paribesh app of the West Bengal Pollution Control Board, because we gives the data not only about the air quality, the ambient noise quality, but also about the water quality of more than 150 places in the state. So periodic water checking which is happening. So there are some good initiatives we are taking, and with the support of each and everyone, definitely we would be able to do better. So good evening everybody. The question is whether the next world war would be fought on the issue of water. So the question is, we are seeing the water crisis, the way it is happening. We are seeing every day the news items, the entire news feed, that what water crisis is leading to in the capital, Delhi. What is happening, how people are living, what is their problem. So this is going to be on a smaller scale. We are seeing on a little bit larger scale, we are seeing that there is a fight among the states, whether it is Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, where there is a water sharing dispute, or it is between Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, or other places, or it is between the countries, between India and Pakistan, where India is building some dam, or where the China is building dam on different Brahmaputra and other rivers, and that is causing different kind of problems. This definitely, water is going to be the main issue in the future. Number one, that definitely our people from our villages are coming to urban areas, and pressure on the urban resources is increasing. They are not finding the real facilities, whether it is water or other things, in the rural areas, and the pressure is increasing. In the urban areas, we are seeing, be it Calcutta or any other place, what we are seeing everywhere, the concrete, the jungle of concrete we are seeing. Everything is concretized. So when the rain comes, the water goes back to the Bay of Bengal, no water to recharge the underground table is going down. So this crisis is going to deepen. For the next generation, we are perhaps living not a good kind of situation. And definitely if we don't find the solution today, it is going to be a very, very big problem in the future. But first question that we all should try to understand, has the water of the world gone somewhere? Has the quantity of water, which was around say 70%, has it been reduced? The question is no. It is the same water, 70% water. So then what is the problem? Problem is that water particularly this potable drinking water, is not there where it should be. That is the only problem. And it has not been preserved properly because of our faulty policies. The issue, the solution lies in many other things. The way we have, like if we see in Kolkata or if we see in Delhi or other places, the water bodies which were there, all the water bodies are being filled up. If the water bodies are being filled up for building some structure, it is going to lead to another kind of problem. So definitely why I am citing these local issues also, because from the local issue only the bigger issues would emerge, where we are seeing the fight between the streets or fight between the people or fight between the states or also fight between the countries, where the water would become a bigger issue. Definitely it need to be addressed. It need to be addressed now. There is enough water, plenty of water. It reminds me one small thing. Mr. Barry Commoner had written a book, The Closing Circles, in 1971. He had given 4 principles of ecology. What are the 4 principles of ecology? One, nature knows the best. Second principle is, there is no such thing as free lunch. Number 3, everything is connected to everything else. And number 4, everything must go somewhere. It's a complete circle. So, if we don't give the solution, nature knows the best how to find a solution. And they will definitely correct the way we are doing things, correct the way we are managing things, the nature will do things. And the way we are thinking, only for us, what is available for me, why the temperature is increasing? Are we thinking about the birds and other creatures? No. There is this earth is for everybody. We have to take care of everybody. As long as we would think that everybody has to contribute only for me, I don't have to contribute back for anybody else, there is a problem. We have to develop this habit from the beginning, then only the solution will be found. I'm just citing some of the things which I think about the water, and definitely in the course of discussion and after listening to everybody, we'll proceed with the discussion. Thank you so much.
Next, we'll move to someone a lot of us know as the Green Man, and he's planted not one, not 100, not 1,000, but 63,000 trees in Mumbai. Is that right? Or is it more? Still counting, that's right. So we are very proud and privileged to have you with us, sir. And sir, what we are going to ask you is something you're very closely associated with, which is rainwater harvesting from a climate change and extreme weather lens. How does rainwater harvesting help? And also, what are the potential challenges and limitations also of rainwater harvesting?
Rainwater harvesting. First of all, sir, thank you so much for being here. It is like a learning experience from me, what Pollution Control Board is doing, CII is doing, and it's all national campaigns you're working on. Rainwater harvesting is a very simple thought, which is a very ancient way. Let me say Kolkata as an example, because right now we are sitting in Kolkata. Most of the houses had their own ponds. They had a small pond. It used to take care of many of their water requirements. Their food used to be taken care from the pond, but now the pond have disappeared. So the dependency of water source from some other factor has improved and increased in a very big way. Because we are depending upon other factors, the source of water has declined so much that there is no water to come in our taps. Water which was free for us, today we have to pay a lot of money for that. Let me not talk about how much money, because there's a huge mafia for tankers. There's a filter water business going on. Every house has a filter. Rainwater harvesting, which we also call as Jal Sanchay, which is very much encouraged by Jal Jeevan Mission, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Ministry of Jal Shakti, is to make people independent and self-reliant on the source of water, which will focus on quality and quantity. Where God is giving you rains, catch the rain when it falls and where it falls, store it in the best possible way, and use it for entire year. Because if you don't have water, no matter how many taps you installed or hand pumps or borewell you installed, things will not be available. It is a health concern, it is a financial concern, because if you just imagine waking up in the morning and there is no water in the tap, your entire day is gone. I came here a few hours ago. my first priority was let me drink water and also take bath. So just imagine a life of few hours in the morning without water, you will realize. Rainwater harvesting is an individual responsibility. We always cannot blame pollution control board or the municipal corporations or governments that it is your responsibility. It's not that. Rainwater harvesting is individual responsibility. Catch your part of water and use it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I must add here that a lot of electro steel plants have, kind of institutionalized rainwater harvesting over the years. Yeah. So next we'll move on to someone you were the green man, and here's the river cyclist. We have a lot of these monikers which define the work that our distinguished panelists are doing. So, very, very proud to ask Mr. Samrat Maulik to share his experiences. And I think you've done 17,000 kilometers on a cycle, right? Okay. Okay, that's
अभी तक
अभी
till
तक
date,
अभी
yeah.
तक ठीक है. अभी बताइए कि ये my question for you is just one second. Since you have covered all these rivers, cycled through many kinds of climate, you're the perfect person to ask something about irregular rainfall distribution, reduced wetlands, forest area, etc. इसका जो climate change है इनके ऊपर, what is the effect? And more importantly, how do we counter this?
Yeah.
As the government, as the industry, as citizens. Sir.
Okay, thank you. Since we have a very limited time, so I want to give you a few examples. क्योंकि मैं self teaching process में गया, so I will give you few examples like the one of the most notable and important wetland of our Indian subcontinent is lying Indo-Bangladesh border. It's called Haur, just beside the Meghalaya. Okay. So in 2022, मैं उधर था during the flood, and that was the pre-monsoon flood. The entire area, the Haur means kind of a sagar, that means the sea. The areas are full of water during the monsoon, but I'm talking about the pre-monsoon stage. तो जितना बड़ा हावर आप जाइए आपको लगेगा इट्स काइंड ऑफ अ कश्मीर डाल लेक. Within that Haur, you can find human settlements, छोटा छोटा है, और साथ में पुलिस स्टेशंस, स्कूल्स, सब पानी के ऊपर है. तो प्री मॉनसून स्टेज जब धान गेहूं जब उगलते हैं, जो घर में लेके जाने का टाइम प्री मॉनसून के लिए बारिश होना स्टार्ट हुआ है. तो इंटर खेती जो था वो पानी के अंदर आ गया. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, अगर लास्ट 10 इयर्स और 15 इयर्स का डेटा जो है वेटलैंड का, उस पे फिशरीज, जो फिश और स्पेशली जो स्नेक्स, रेप्टाइल्स, जो इकोसिस्टम था वो कंप्लीट खत्म हो गया. क्यों? रीजन इज दो इरेगुलर रेनफॉल. ऐसी सिचुएशन दूसरी जगह में मैं देखा. अभी प्रॉब्लम कहां है? क्योंकि मेघालय में जब बारिश होता है पानी ऊपर से आते हैं, सो दे कंसिडर एज अ ढॉलेर पानी, और ये पानी जब जाते हैं पूरा खत्म करके ले जाते हैं. दे डोंट हैव एनी ऑप्शन टू प्रोटेक्ट, क्योंकि उधर जो रिवर्स है सुरमा एंड कुशियारा, धनु, दीज आर द मेजर नोटेबल रिवर्स एट दैट एरिया पर्टिकुलरली. तो इरेगुलर रेनफॉल के लिए जो हो रहा है अभी, ऐसा बहुत सारे वेटलैंड, जितना अपर एरिया है, जो अपर लैंड है वो खत्म हो रहा है. साथ में बरून, कांदा, इट्स कॉल्ड कांदा बॉन, द बोरून, करच, दीज आर द ट्रीज, नेटिव ट्रीज, जो ऑलमोस्ट खत्म हो चुका है फ्रॉम दैट वेटलैंड पर्टिकुलरली. तो सारे वेटलैंड में ही ऐसा हो रहा है ऐसा नहीं है, बट स्टिल जो मैं वेटलैंड का बात कर रहा हूं वो नॉर्थ ईस्ट इंडिया के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मायने रखते हैं. एंड स्पेशली लाइवलीहुड का जब बात हम करते हैं, इट्स सीवियरली अफेक्टेड. थैंक यू.
So the next is, I think everyone knows or has heard of Mr. Pankaj Poddar, the man who's played a key role in taking the Electrosteel Group to 120, 130 plus countries. And he's, over the years, I really like his insights and anecdotes and stories about the various situations, his life experience. And he spent his entire working life at Electrosteel, I believe. Okay. Unlike some of us who keep hopping from company to company, here's a man who stands for certain values. Okay. So, Mr. Poddar, agriculture is extremely water intensive. That's a common refrain that we hear. And in this particular context, okay, you know, how important is the role of water in food security? And if you can also add a little bit, given your interest in AI and technology and so on, which I know of, what is the role that efficient irrigation systems play in promoting water sustainability? Please.
Well, it's almost impossible to overemphasize the importance of water in agriculture and the linkage to food security. It's mainly because of the fact that if you look at India or maybe any other country in the world, particularly let's talk of India, it represents a huge part of the world. 70% of the water, the fresh water, is consumed only in agriculture. The total consumption of water in the world for anything, which means that unless we understand how to use water well in the agriculture sector, anything that we might do. I was just talking to Dr. Kumar while before coming on the stage, and then the common thought is that unless we can use water efficiently in the irrigation and the agriculture space particularly, whatever difference we are going to make is not going to make a big overall impact. Considering this, what we really need is smart irrigation. What is smart irrigation? Very simple things like the drip irrigation system or the sprinkler irrigation system. Like when you drive around most of these advanced countries and you see a garden which is just across the road, you'll see very small pipes sometimes, and there's some water which is coming out. It's like feeding the roots of the plants rather than feeding the leaves or just feeding the earth around it. So it's very, very efficient use of water. So what is smart irrigation at the end of the day? To have the adequate amount of water at the right time for agriculture to grow whatever we want to grow. It is bad to have more water, it is bad to have less water. So at the end of the day, smart irrigation helps you in that, whether it's drip irrigation, whether it is something to do with sprinkler irrigation. Now, the other thing that we can see is, like if you go to Uttar Pradesh, you go to Punjab, you will see a lot of open canals, which are basically feeding water to the fields. Now, there is a lot of evaporation of that water. You need land for having open canals. With our population, land is expensive, and we cannot have a situation where the water, maybe 20, 30, 40% of it gets evaporated. So what we need? We need pipelines to transmit the water for irrigation, which is much more efficient. So we need to do certain things like, now there's something called integrated water resource management. Now, why do we need it? At the end of the day, we are talking about a situation where we cannot look at some small parts and try to build the whole. We can't do that. We have to look at an entire watershed. From the watershed, we decide we need water for potable use, we need for community, we need for industry, we need for agriculture. And then we plan accordingly. So, water is extremely important. It's very clear, it's almost intuitive that water is extremely important, whether it's for pure agriculture or the food processing units, or whether it is for livestock farming and animal product industries. You need water for everything. But Other than that, the important thing is to how to use it efficiently. And there are a lot of smart ways by which it is being done. Simple things like mulching, some simple things like greenhouse farming. These are very simple technologies. We need to have cooperatives, we need to have education, we need to have incentives to the farmers to so that they can adopt these kind of practices, which is going to help. It's like your money really going as far as it can. Similarly, we need to make our water go as far as it can. And one important thing is, however much fresh water is available, at the end of the day, we will have to recycle. We'll have to recycle the way industry's taken it up. We'll have to do it for agriculture because 70% of the consumption is just there.
Thank you. That was very insightful. And I remember reading somewhere that water is soon going to be like a human right, access to pure, clean water and so on. So we'll move to the second round, and there's no commercial break, unlike television. So we'll move straight to Dr. Kapil Kumar Narula. And since Mr. Poddar was talking about smart water technologies and so on, the question is kind of related, which is, in fact, I heard you about a year back in a CII Electrosteel webinar talk about smart water. Okay. So if you could kind of revisit or, give us some insights on, what is this smart water and what is the relationship with water management? This is a question I love asking because, of digital technologies which are changing, the way we understand water management in India. Sir.
Thank you. It's a really a very important point and a very important question. There are two aspects, friends, over here. One is, as you said, smart water, and second is water smart. Now I have just 4 points, Shubhoji, over here. One, we are today, point number one, we are living in an era or time of data revolution. We are actually dealing with, amongst few things, we are dealing with 4 V's. One, we are dealing with velocity of data. Today, with the use of smart meters, digitalization systems, sensors, remote sensing, satellites, drones, you are capturing and collecting data at a very fast speed. Whatever was being done historically, the rate at which the data is coming to us now is at a very fast rate. So one is velocity. Second is volume. We are dealing with so much of data now today that actually we are looking at new ways and new data engines which can actually start putting this data together and coming out with analysis of this data. Huge volume of data. Third V, variety of data. Today you talk about a huge variety of data. You talk about temperature sensors, rainfall sensors, rainfall radar systems. You talk about, water quality sensors. You talk about so much is a huge variety that is being coming to us at a huge speed, which is the velocity, and in huge volumes. Final V is veracity, accuracy of data. See, this accuracy of data is a very important aspect which actually helps in putting certain statistical tools to this and basically helps in understanding what is my data telling me. What do I need to do differently from the data that I am generating in terms of velocity, volume, variety? What are the right decisions that I need to take? Now, Poddarji actually mentioned about a very important thing, which is recycling, reusing. In CII, we have come out with guidelines with Niti Aayog, Government of India, water neutrality guidelines for Indian industry. This is a very good example of a complete framework and a guideline which I think all interested people in this room should take out some time, go through it. It's publicly available. It defines how you become water smart. One, if from an industry perspective, Shubhoji, I'll just tell 3 more points. One, become operationally efficient. Maximize your operational efficiency. recycle, reuse, recover, material recovery is really the future. Don't look at end of pipe treatment and be happy with it. See how you can deal with salts. So first important aspect becomes operational efficiency from industry point of view is a must. Second, identify your watershed or your groundwater aquifer. Have a good relationship with your watershed. Now, Samratji was actually mentioning how wetlands play such an important role. Right now, Shubhajit was mentioning about rainwater harvesting system. See, all these will come to you once a plant or an industry looks itself in terms of the watershed that it belongs to. Where are my demand supply gaps? Is my irrigation system requires? Is it how much water it is using? What is my gap? What is it that I can fill as a partner? Industry is a partner. You cannot be government. You have to work with government and community to make your operations sustainable. So my second important element of smartness is from operational efficiency to operational sustainability. And my third important aspect, and that I need to identify with my watershed, with my groundwater aquifer system. When you come to my office in CII, I will show you how I have identified my office with regard to my building and the aquifer on which I am sitting. I will show you that I have an aquifer diagram on my wall, which tells me where is the layer of my aquifer which contains groundwater, what is the condition of that groundwater, how do I need to have a relationship with my groundwater system. I will also tell you how I am related to weather conditions. I have a weather station in my office. I will show you how I know that the previous evening my watershed received a storm. And what did that storm, had in terms of rainfall, intensity, wind direction, wind speed, temperature. And I can play with this data set to be more prepared in the future. So that's my water smartness. I think there are a lot of opportunities to become water smart. It is a very good time for all of us to become water smart and make smart water moves. So that's where but one can have more discussions around this, Shubhoji, but I think this is a very opportune time to become that water smart. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Narula. Dr. Rajesh Kumar, you have been very deeply involved in various government initiatives in the water space. There's Jal Jeevan Mission, there's Namami Gange, there's Amrut. So can you give us a broad outline of, what is the government approach to, reducing water pollution, encouraging water conservation and so on, right? And if you could also add the role of the government, it's a policy question perhaps, role of the government in effective management of water resources. Sir.
See, we at the Pollution Control Board, we are working with definitely in the different kind of program. Jal Jeevan Mission is being done by some other department, but definitely this national mission on Clean Ganga, that is partly being handled by us also. And then the part of say Swachh Bharat Mission and other things. So your question like government initiative and how we are involving the community and ensuring the pollution free, it's a two-pronged approach. One is that we are dealing at the community level. We are involving with the schools, students, and like we have 5,632 schools with whom we are working for this as National Green Co-op program and different kind of program, whether in the school awareness campaign and all the things that is being done. Secondly, we are also working, recently Government of India has launched a program of Mission Life. In that Mission Life, that is also another thing where we are interacting with the community and spreading this awareness, how they should focus upon water conservation and ensuring that there is lesser pollution, etc. On the other hand, the Pollution Control Board is a regulator. And as a regulator, we are working with the industries to ensure that they maintain the effluent treatment plant, etc., the quality of water that is getting discharged. That thing is very important. At present, as Mr. Narula has very rightly said, that the smarter approach to know the things and collection of data. So we are also working on the real time data which we are step by step we are implementing. Initially we were getting data on a monthly or weekly reporting system, but now we are getting data on a real time where the online consent and emission monitoring system which has been installed in most of the industries, the bigger ones. So we are getting data what kind of quality of water they are maintaining, in particularly at the discharge level. So that way also, by regulating also taking action, we are ensuring that they participate in this program. That is another thing which is being done, and definitely for the community, like our Paribesh app, as I told you, that we give data of different places where we do this water testing. We are bringing this industrial water affluent parameters also on board for the consumption of public, and even we can get so that we can get the public support also in analyzing and even getting whatever feedback from them as well. So if we all work together, if community also come forward, then definitely something big can be done. Like one thing which was there that in Kolkata, all the houses are having the rainwater harvesting. I can proudly say that in this environmental clearance, where we play a very crucial role in giving environmental clearances to different societies, housing, apartment buildings, etc., we have ensured that number one, this rainwater harvesting thing, that should be taken care of. We are forcing and motivating that there should be minimum 1% solar energy should be there. We are asking them to maintain minimum 20% of the green coverage in the housing area, and all those, and also the STP, where the kind of water that is getting discharged, and also the reuse of the wastewater. All those things collectively, when it is being done, definitely we would be able to maintain those standards and the awareness will come. Now we have come with one more innovative approach. We have worked with about 15-20 housing societies. We are coming up with an innovative idea of giving livability index. Because my thinking is, today or tomorrow, the prices of the property or the rental prices of a particular locality would be determined by the livability index of that area. So the livability index will depend on many factors, including the factors which I have mentioned, also about the quality of the drinking water and all other things as well. So all these things put together will definitely spread the awareness in the community. It will also motivate people to work with us. Like I was talking to Umang Kejriwal ji also, then he told me that they have shortlisted around 140 people who are working in this field in the West Bengal state. I requested him if we can get those data so that we would like to work, though award may be given to a few, but we would like to work with all those who want to do something. I was talking to some of the participants who are here, that they want to do something new. We have some ideas. Together we can definitely achieve better. So that is our thinking. And definitely with that we would be able to do something.
Thank you, sir. And you mentioned data quite a few times in your, in your talk. And I remembered that line, data is the new oil. So now it's data is the new water. The way water, technology and data is so closely intertwined. So we'll move to Shubhajit Mukherjee, the green man. Okay. And the question is very simple, which is, large scale plantations, which you've done in Mumbai and you're involved in many other places. How do these help in mitigating and combating climate change? And before you give your answer, I can hear, if you'll allow me the indulgence of a little anecdote, I thought I was hearing some water in the room. It's actually these little girls practicing for a dance performance. It's their, the Jhummers, the anklets. Okay, so what a beautiful moment. Sir, over to you.
Tree plantation is definitely a very important aspect. When I talk about rural tree plantation. Let me talk about the country. We are an agricultural country. Most of the people in India, they still depend upon agricultural income. Our agricultural pattern is so misleading and not guided properly that we have cut all the tree based cultivation and we are doing only paddy based. Paddy based, because of that, we had to cut all the forest, make it totally clean, start growing maybe cotton or sugarcane or rice. So, because of our huge consumption pattern, which was never regulated, we have lost all the green cover. So, on the agricultural side, as a nation, we want to go ahead with a fruit based economy, fruit based cultivation, so that there are a lot of mango trees, guava trees, all types of fruits, so that fruits will have more nutrition for us because we cannot depend upon the topsoil anymore. Our health depend upon food, fruits specifically. So one aspect is when we are talking about tree plantation as a solution means we are encouraging a country where 40% of our intake will be fruit based so that we have enough nutrition for ourselves. We have more healthy. It's a health initiative. And when it comes to cities, when urban areas where everything is concretized, when we talk about tree plantation means we are creating a space of 3 feet by 3 feet, which is well defined by even, I would say, uh, WB Pollution Control Board has also made it. Yeah, West Bengal Pollution Control Board. They have also made it clear that you have to make a space of 3 feet by 3 feet everywhere. So whenever we are talking about urban areas, tree plantation, there's more space, more water goes inside, ecosystem, the heat island effect, the unnecessary human created heat wave will be under control. So again, it affects our health in a very direct way. So both aspects are very important, and that's why tree plantation, it already, I mean, everyone, CII has spent more than 3,000 crore rupees in the last 5 years with the help of all their members to do tree plantation across India. That's one of the biggest contribution of CII. I heard about it in the industrial ministry was talking about in the parliament. So that's how the impact is tree-based economy, tree-based agriculture system, tree-based urban planning. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask a quick question to you. How do you communicate? How do you get mass involvement in planting 63, 67,000 trees?
See, every individual here, everyone, not a single person agrees that we have to plant a tree. But we have some doubts. Where are we going to plant? When are we going to plant? What we should plant? How will we maintain it? Again, I would talk about, because they are here in front of us, CII is there, Pollution Control Board is there, many other organizations. Their focus is to give the right kind of guidelines. They are creating right kind of platform. They are identifying the place. Municipal corporations are much more efficient now. They are engaging as a Jan Andolan, as a citizens movement. They are giving free trees. They are giving advices, soil
So-
control, everything. So
Yes.
now that's how, when things are becoming easier, people are very participative to it.
So you're saying there's a public, private, government, whatever.
Everyone,
partnership that
everyone
works.
who
Okay.
breathes,
Right.
everyone who drinks water, they're all part of it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I must also add that Electrosteel has done a lot of, I mean, across all its plants in India and possibly abroad, they've done a lot of tree plantation drives on World Environment Day, etc. And I don't know how many of you are on Electrosteel Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and other platforms, but you can see, videos, images of these plantation drives. So we're going to move to the cyclist, the Samrat Maulik. And, I was just thinking I'd love to chat with you on the merits and demerits of different cycles, road bikes versus, but this is not the right time. So I'm going to ask you, you've traveled extensively on your cycle and you've seen many countries, many environments, etc. So my question to you is, what are the different water conservation methods that you have witnessed? And if you can, and also equally importantly, how do you build awareness? अभी जो मैंने सर को पूछा था, how do you build awareness amongst the general public about these various water conservation methods? Sir.
Yeah, thank you. मेरा काम बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है बिकॉज आई हैव टू paddle for like 3,000 kilometer, 5,000 kilometer in one expedition, covering 13 or 15 states of India, otherwise the outside of India, like in Russia. तो मैं जब वोल्गा कवर कर रहा था स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द वाल्डाई हिल्स टू ऑलमोस्ट द कास्पियन सी, तो इंटरस्टेट बहुत सारे एक्सपीरियंसेस मुझे मिला है. लाइक इन चाफ फ्राया रिवर इन थाईलैंड, आई कंप्लीटेड द एंटायर लेंथ ऑफ दैट रिवर. फिर इसमें क्या होता है, इवन इन उज्बेकिस्तान इन सेंट्रल एशिया, आई कंप्लीट ऑलमोस्ट द पार्ट ऑफ द शीर दरिया रिवर, अम्बू दरिया रिवर, सॉरी. तो इसमें क्या होता है, लैंग्वेज इज नॉट अ बार. द थिंग इज दैट वेदर यू हैव सच इमोशंस फॉर नेचर और नॉट, दैट्स इट. ओके, सो मैंने मेरा काम दो तरीके से बांट लिया है. नंबर वन विद इन इंडिया एंड नंबर टू इज आउटसाइड इंडिया. आउटसाइड इंडिया में क्या कर रहा हूं, जहां पे व्हेनेवर आई मीट विद द लोकल गाइज, ठीक है, मैं इनके साथ मेरा रिलेशनशिप होता है और फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म हमारे पास ईमेल आईडी है, फोन नंबर्स है, इवन वी यूज गूगल ट्रांसलेटर ऑल्सो, सो दैट वी कैन exchange our best practices in long term. Number one, through my NGO. And number two, within my India, we started water literacy program. हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, जो schools है 6 + 6, 7, 8, तो इन लोग स्टूडेंट्स के लिए we offer 3 months, 6 months and 1 year course which is completely free. तो क्या होता है, स्कूल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में हर सैटरडे में हम लोग वाटर लिटरेसी प्रोग्राम क्लास होता है. वी हैव अ बंच ऑफ वॉलंटियर टीचर्स के लिए अलग से ट्रेनिंग फैसिलिटी है. एक इकोसिस्टम लोग जनरेट किया है, सो दैट जो क्लास 6, 7, 8, जब वो क्लास 9 और 10th में जा रहा है, he or she is already aware about the water scarcity, the river conservation, the pollution and all. तो और एक क्या होता है, जब प्लास्टिक रिमूवल के लिए हम लोग ड्राइव लेते हैं, जो क्लास 6, 7, 8 में पढ़ते हैं वो स्टूडेंट जाके रास्ते से प्लास्टिक जो वेस्ट है वो उठाते हैं. इसमें एक मैजिकल काम हुआ है. रीजन इज, उन लोगों का पेरेंट देखते हैं जो मेरा बच्चा रास्ते से प्लास्टिक उठा रहा है, आई शुड नॉट डू अगेन. तो इसमें क्या हुआ है, प्रैक्टिकल सिचुएशन में हम लोग देखा है, जो भी है हम लोग टेक्निकल आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस बोलिए, आप टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट बोलिए, जो भी है, व्हाट एवर द साइंटिफिक इनोवेशन, व्हाट एवर, अगर वो प्रोजेक्ट अगर हम लोग को सक्सेसफुल करना है, देन आई हैव टू कनेक्ट ऑल दोस पीपल जिसके लिए प्रोजेक्ट हो रहा है. जैसे कोई चेक डैम बन रहा है, तो किसी को पता ही नहीं है क्यों हो रहा है, ये वो नहीं मेंटेन करेगा. तो जैसे एक रिवर के साइड से नेटिव प्लांट लगाना चाहिए, वैसे वी हैव टू इन्वॉल्व दोज लोकल पीपल, अदरवाइज ये काम होगा नहीं. तो आई एम मोर इनटू पब्लिक अवेयरनेस. और मैं जितना देखा, चाहे आप केरल में चला जाइए, चाहे कन्नड़ बोलने वाला कर्नाटक में जाइए, चाहे नॉर्थ ईस्ट में, अरुणाचल में, व्हाट एवर, वेन एवर मैंने जाता हूं, मैं देखा है जो पीपल आर रियली इंटरेस्टेड टू डू समथिंग पॉजिटिव टू सर्व मदर नेचर. प्रॉब्लम यही है जो कैसे करूं. तो एक छोटा सा सजेशन हम लोग सबको देते हैं स्टार्टिंग में अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करने का टाइम. जैसे जस्ट यू कैन चेंज योर बिहेवियरल पैटर्न. जैसे आज इधर एक इवेंट हो रहा है रिगार्डिंग द वाटर क्राइसिस एंड सॉल्यूशन ऑल व्हाट एवर. तो प्लास्टिक्स बॉटल बहुत सारे है ना हमारे पास, तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं, पीते हैं ये, और वी लेफ्ट सपोज 20 ml वाटर. अक्सर होगा, आज भी होगा, इधर हर जगह होता है. नाउ वी रिक्वेस्ट एवरीबॉडी, जो एक काम कीजिए, जो 20 ml आप छोड़ दिया ना, जस्ट फिनिश कर लीजिए. नाउ इफ यू सर्वाइव फॉर नेक्स्ट 30 or 45 years, then you calculate like this, 20 ml into 365 days into 40 years. जो नंबर आएगा ना, जो नंबर जस्ट वाटर कंज्यूम किया है, दैट्स इट. ये बहुत बड़ा काम होता है. जैसे घर में इफ somebody comes, आप किसी को पानी दे रहे हैं, वाटर दे रहे हैं, तो बड़ा ग्लास, हाई बॉल ग्लास में नो, आप उसको छोटा कर दीजिए. अगर चाहिए तो सेकेंड टाइम, थर्ड टाइम लेगा. सो दीज आर द वेरी बेसिक थिंग जहां पे बिहेवियरल चेंज जहां से शुरू होता है और धीरे धीरे मैंने देखा जो पब्लिक जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं कोट अनकोट वो ना उसका बदल हो जाता है चेंज हो जाता है एंड रियली दे आर मोर इनटू यू नो विथ आवर एंडेवर और भी एफर्ट लगा के काम चल रहा है आगे और मुझे लगता है जो स्कूल में जो हम लोग वाटर लिटरेसी कर रहे हैं वो भी नेक्स्ट 5 साल में काफी अच्छे इम्पैक्ट ला देगा इंडिया में थैंक यू
Thank you, thank you. Next, we're going to go to a man who has more visa stamps on his passport than anyone else in this room. Actually, this hotel. Or let me exaggerate and say this city. Okay, so Mr. Podar, I'm going to ask you a question that comes from Electrosteel's presence in 120, 130 countries. And, you know, your products are also used for agriculture in various completely different kind of climates, environments, and so on. So what are the challenges of implementing this water recycling and reuse in agriculture? If you could, you know, enlighten us from a global perspective, please.
You see, when you talk of recycling, a big challenge is whenever you use the word recycling, people start suspecting what are they going to get after recycling. Is it going to be contaminated still? Is it going to be pure? Is it going to be nutritious? And water, we call water the elixir of life. Okay? So, I remember, you see, when the Changi sewage treatment plant was being built, I must have visited the site not less than 15 times. And what they were doing was they were collecting all the sewage of Singapore city and they were treating it. It became ultra pure water. Then they were going to charge it with the vital minerals and then give it back to the population for drinking. Why Singapore had to, at that time, they used to import water from Malaysia. And that was a huge dependence which they wanted to get rid of. I remember in one of the meetings in the Public Utility Board, there was a joint, team of the Public Utility Board and the Ministry of Environment. And I was there in one of the meetings and we were discussing about it. And I made a simple suggestion. Like everywhere they were using the word recycled. And then we said, okay, why don't we call it something different? And then the coinage came as any water, which is also new water. It became new water. Now the perceptions, what happens in recycling? There is a perception. If you're going to recycle water even for agricultural fields, the farmer is going to feel, okay, what am I going to get? Is it going to spoil the earth? Mera like crops ugega theek se ki nahi? What's going to happen? Similarly, you're going to say, okay, can we drink this water? So that is a huge problem. There is one advertisement going on in the television I saw between one of the cricket matches. Is about somebody on a flight being given some ice cubes with a drink, and then they were talking about how the sewage was getting converted into ice cubes, and the guy couldn't drink any further. So what I'm trying to say is acceptance of recycling is a very big issue, and globally people are the same. So acceptance is important. The quality of recycling is important. Like we do, I remember back in 2002 or 2003 when we just entered the European market and we were in France in the southern part, in the Provence area, and I saw, they showed us their control room in which there was a huge wall on which they showed us how they could, with sensors, control the water that was going in for for agriculture. That entire pipeline was controlled with sensors, and they were sitting there and they were doing it back in 2002. What we are trying to implement today in a pilot scale in our country. So there is a lot of knowledge everywhere. It is available. We need to see it, we need to implement it. And yes, in India, when we want to do whether recycling or technology has to be inexpensive. It cannot be expensive. You see, one of the big challenges of recycled water, you ask industry to use recycled water. Okay, they say zero discharge. Also recycled water. Now the cost of recycling, the infrastructure to build it, to maintain it, the capex and the opex involved, is that cost of recycled water higher than the fresh water that you're getting? Why is it? It is stupid to have it, but why is it? Because fresh water is not getting uh, built to you at the rate at which it should, because the cost of actually having pure water is very high. But for whatever reasons, we are not able to bill it to people the way it should be built. You go and waste water abroad, and they're going to say, okay, I've got the way I've got electricity meters, I've got a water meter, I need to pay for it. So those are certain equilibriums that we need to build in our system to make recycled water more, whether having the infrastructure, making it inexpensive. Otherwise, people will always opt for the cheaper version. So these are main challenges. And again, what I have seen mainly abroad is that they are using a lot of technologies. Like in Spain, they wanted to do something called purple pipes they were buying, which was a parallel line going to be used for flushing systems, gardening, cleaning of cars. Okay, it did not really see the light of day the way it should have, because it was a very expensive project. It was almost a parallel pipeline to drinking water pipelines all through the city in every home, which was actually not a very viable proposition. So economics has to come in to make the thing viable, and that's everywhere in the world.
Okay. So one informal question I can't help slipping in. How many languages do you know?
Now I keep telling people, the first time I went to Spain, I tried to learn Spanish. Then after a year, we started getting into France. So then it became French. Then we went into Italy, it became Italian. So I decided to stick to good old English and whatever Hindi and Bengali or whatever I can do. So I decided not to get into any more complications in life.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we've come to the end of our panel discussion. But I would like to ask all the panelists, is there something they kind of forgot to speak about? Is there a message you have for viewers who have tuned in from 110 plus countries? This is live on YouTube. And if there is a message, if you can start off with you, sir.
Our message to each and everybody is definitely conserve water, come with us, let us work together. Let us save water, let us work for Mother Earth, because water is a very scarce resource. Luckily, in India, most of the rivers are getting their water from forest rains and not from the glacier-based water resource. So by planting more trees, we can attract the rain. That is the only way out, that if we all of us go for this, definitely we can do it together. जो कहते हैं ना कि छोटे छोटे कदम बढ़ाते लंबा रास्ता कट जाता है, बूंद बूंद पानी डालो तो गहरा सागर भर जाता है. Let us work together for this.
Thank you. It's very inspiring. Dr. Narula, just request all panelists to keep it short because it's slightly running out of time. Please, sir.
Well, my message is that let's be water smart, let's be water secure, and let it be a holistic and all-inclusive movement. And I think in relation to the same, the waste is a resource. Let's not look at waste as wastewater. It is a resource, new water.
Thank you so much. The green man.
Our slogan is no green without blue. So if you want green to survive, blue is the first thing. And it's time to grow your own oxygen by planting your own tree. You have a house, you have a car, you have a watch, you have a phone. You should also own a tree today. Thank you so much.
No green without blue.
No green without blue.
What an amazing thing to say. Okay, we'll come to the cyclists. Samrat, sir, what's your message?
My message is we need more and more students to learn about the importance of water resource, and they have to know about the Mother Earth and how we can survive in next 30 or 35 years. So every guardian, every parent should support them, and we should have more and more investment for creating the educational infrastructure where we can learn about the water conservation and river conservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. Pankaj sir.
Well, I'll just talk about, we have this very simple line that we use in a lot of our publications, and that is carrying life to people, safe drinking water for all. I would say safe water for all, and that's something that we need to all work for. And without water, there is no life.
Without water, there's no life. What an amazing sentiment. Thank you very much, and thank you, audience. Not just this audience, but the audience in 120, 130 countries who are possibly watching us. Thank you very much, panelists, and thank you, Electrosteel, for giving me the opportunity to moderate this amazing, wonderful discussion. And also a warm hello to a Padma Shri in the audience, Shri Uma Shankar Pandeji. And with that, we come to the end of this discussion. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very enriching experience for all of us here. I would like to thank Dr. Rajesh Kumar, Dr. Kapil Kumar Narula, Mr. Pankaj Poddar, Mr. Samrat Maulik, Mr. Shubhajit Mukherjee, and Mr. Shubho Sengupta for such an insightful discussion with all of us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite on stage Srimati Radha Kejriwal, Director, Electrosteel, and Srimati Nityangi K. Jaiswal, Director, Electrosteel, to come on stage and felicitate our panelist and our moderator for the evening. A warm welcome to you as well. Kindly come forward. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, as we truly enjoyed the session, so can we have a big round of applause for all our panelists and our moderator. Thank you to Srimati Radha Kejriwal and Srimati Nityangi K. Jaiswal for the felicitation. And now, to cherish this memory, we should have a photo op. So I would request all our panelists to step forward along with Srimati Radha Kejriwal and Srimati Nityangi K. Jaiswal